Hi there, fellow sea glass lovers. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Jackie, and in today's video, I am going to give you a little demo on how to add a tiny bit of color to some of your sea glass using acrylic paint. Now, typically, I don't add any color to my sea glass. People will often look at my sea glass pieces like this and say, do you do anything? Do you cut your sea glass? Do you do anything to add color? And for most of my pieces, I don't. It's just what I find at the beach gets put into a piece of art, and that's how it's presented. But sometimes I think, oh, it would be nice to add a tiny bit of color. Maybe there's a specific effect that I want to get, or I just want something that's a bit different to catch a person's eye. Because rare colors are rare. Like if you look at the color blue in my necklace here, that is an actual blue piece of sea glass that was found at the beach. My husband found it, and it is stunning. The blue that I have in my earrings here, cobalt blue, actual color of glass found at the beach. And I don't get a ton of different colors, so sometimes I just want to add a little bit. So I will show you how I do that because I have a ton of white sea glass. And if you just add a tiny bit of color to a bit of white sea glass, sometimes it's another point of interest in your piece of art. So let me show you how I do that. So the piece that I'm doing right now, I want to add a sea glass flower to it. And I have an awful lot of white sea glass, so I picked out a few of my little white pieces that look like petals. And I'm going to flip these all over because I've found that if I paint the back side of the sea glass, it does have a little bit of, then you put it in the window and you shine the light through. That piece is actually a little pebble, kind of a translucent pebble that I'm going to use in the middle. And so I flipped them over because I want to paint on the back, not the front. Now I have three colors here that I'm going to use. I have a really light metallic green, a dark hooker's green, and a little metallic pink. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this paint, these three colors, and put the tiniest little speck, because I have to tell you, there's a reason why I use these tiny little things, mostly because I can get all sorts of colors in a package with this Artist Loft paint, and because I only use the tiniest little bit, so it can last forever. So I've got these three colors, just the littlest dab of paint of each. And I'm going to end up using hardly any of that. Really small paintbrush, and I'm just going to dab my paint and then put a little bit of paint on each piece. So I want the pink in the middle. And I just go like this and dab. Now, if you want it to be fairly vibrant when you flip it over, then you want a lot of paint. If you want it to be really faint, just use a little bit. And when you do this, you might be thinking, I don't know that I like paint on my sea glass or on my pebbles. But what you're going for is the effect when it's flipped over, so that you can see that. So I want that pink to be fairly vibrant. And then I'm just going to leave it there to dry. Doesn't have to be very neat. You don't have to be any great painter to add a little bit of color to your sea glass. Now with the greens, what I want to do, I want to put some light green on the inside of each piece and dark green on the outside. So I'm going to do the light green first. I picked tiny pieces of sea glass because I want this to be a tiny flower. And the smaller the sea glass, the fussier it is to work with. But I'm going to just go around and put the tiniest bit of green on the inside of each flower petal. So let this dry fully before you glue it into your piece. Okay, now I'm not even going to bother letting that dry because I don't mind if my light blends a bit with my dark. So if you want your colors not to mix at all, then make sure one color is dry before you apply the second color. But I'm just going to do this and do a little bit of the dark green on the outside. And then the goal is when I flip it around and glue it into my piece, it's going to have a bit of a green showing through, but it'll be light green in the center and dark green around the edge of my flower. Now I often will just put plain white flowers into my pieces, and I love them. If you have a great big section in a sea glass mosaic, and then you've got little designs with all the white sea glass that's there, it just adds so much interest. But in this case, I'm going to put this green flower in a section of green sea glass in a piece that I'm working on, and I think it will be just adding a tiny bit of interest. So there you go. I have all my pieces painted. I haven't been very fussy because in nature things are not always exact, so it can be fairly forgiving doing an activity like this. So I really hope you find this interesting and you're not horrified by the fact that I have added some paint to some of my sea glass. Let me show you what I do with it, because I'm going to let this dry before I glue it into my sea glass piece that I want to use it in. Now here I'm going to show you where I have some authentic colors of sea glass. You've got some green, purple, some yellows. Well, they look kind of greenish yellow. I have a cobalt blue. I've got a couple of shades of red, a couple of shades of blue here. And what I've done is I've tried some of my acrylic paints. So here I've taken a piece of white and painted it on the back with Viridian. And when I turn it over, it's not the same, but it's similar to those ones. Here's a pale purple turned over. Here's a cadmium yellow. I painted white. All of these are white pieces of sea glass. This is actually called cobalt blue. We often refer to this color of authentic sea glass as cobalt blue. And it doesn't give you nearly as deep a blue. I might need to use a different color blue paint, acrylic paint, to get that same shade of blue. Here we have a scarlet. And here we have a ceridian blue. So you can see how you can add a bit of interest to your white sea glass and not duplicate authentic sea glass colors, but still give a bit of that impression. As long as you tell people that's acrylic paint, it's not actually the color of the sea glass. I think we're just having fun with our sea glass and with our sea glass art. So now my flower petals have all dried, and when I flip them over, you can see on the other side it just shines through some of this color. And then when I get that into my sea glass piece and it's hanging in a window with the sun shining through, I think it'll be quite effective. The color from the front is much more subtle than it is on the back. And where I'm going to put it, this is a sea glass piece that I'm working on, and I want to have a little flower right here. So I'm just going to arrange these flower petals. I have 8 flower petals, and I'll arrange them in here. And now that it's dry, I can glue these into place, and they'll look quite nice. And this is in a green section, so all this section around it is going to be surrounded by green sea glass. There, I think that's going to work. And you can see this inukshuk that I have right here. With that one, I used some of this gold, and I That's again white sea glass with a little bit of gold acrylic paint on the back of it. It dried, I glued it in place, and I quite like it. And I wanted 2 flowers in here, so you can see I did another one over here. So I'll get this piece finished and show you in a future video what I did to make this one. So I really hope that you find this interesting as a way to add a little bit of element of interest to your sea glass mosaics. And join me next time. I'm going to show you another technique for using watercolor paints to add a bit of interest to your sea glass. So until next time, I hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting.